Welcome once again, students. In this session, we'll be going to start off with our class 9th, chapter 6, that is tissue. So, the main objective of this chapter is in this chapter, we'll be going to understand the different types of plant and their location, structure, and function, the plant tissues and the location of those tissues. Also will understand about different types of animal tissue, their structure and function. So let's discuss the different words which we'll be going to use in this chapter. So first is tissue. Tissue is basically the group of cells. So say for example, if this is one cell, this is two cell and this is third cell. So these all three cells will combine together and they will form the tissue, right? So tissue is the group of cells which are performing a particular function. Then different types of tissues are plant tissue. Plant tissues are the tissues which are present in the plant cell, and animal tissue are the tissues which are present in the animals. Then we have meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue is basically a plant tissue which is having the capability of growing or division continuously. Throughout their life, this tissue divides and help in the elongation of the plant. So these are also called as the growing tissue of the plant. Tissue is a group of cells having similar structure and function. Okay, so those cells which are having same kind of the function, they are grouped together. Say for example, in class also we follow division of labor, right? A group of students who are good in arts, they will be doing decoration of the board. We assign work like that. A group of students whose voice is good, who has interest in music, will give them the duty of the you can say assembly, right? So in that same manner, in our body also there are many cells, although they are capable of doing each and every function, but still the body has divided different cells according to their specialization. And this division of labor is done on the basis of the specialized function of the particular cell, and such groups are named as the tissue. So let's understand first of all about different types of the plant tissue. When we talk about plant tissues, I have already explained you this flowchart during the introduction of the chapter, that basically plant tissues are of two types, that is meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue, right? Meristematic means they have the power of growing or division continuously throughout their life, right? So we have classification of the meristematic tissue is as apical meristematic tissue, intercalary meristematic tissue, and lateral meristematic tissue. So these meristematic tissues are present in the plant, but they are not present in the animal, and hence the growth of animals stop after a particular age, right? But plants, they continue to grow throughout their life. Next, permanent tissues are basically the tissues which have lost the power of division. Okay, so now they have converted into a permanent tissue. They are simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue have further classification. So we'll be going to understand. So next is lateral meristematic tissue. This lateral meristematic tissue is also called as cambium. Alright, and it is present over node, and you can see it is present at the, you can say, along the side of the stem, and this is helping in increasing the girth of the plant. That means diameter of the stem. Here the lateral meristematic tissue is present. Then intercalary meristematic tissue is present between the node and internode area. So this area is the nodal area. You can see in the plant at the base there is a swollen part. So that is swollen due to the presence of the lateral meristematic tissue. And the area between the two nodes is called as the internode area. And here also the intercalary or cambium is present. So parenchyma is having the living cells. These are the living cells, and collenchyma are also living cells, whereas the sclerenchyma, they are the dead cells. Location of parenchyma is they are present in the soft parts of the plant. Wherever they have to perform the function of the storage, basically we will find the parenchyma tissue in plants. Collenchyma are found in the leaf, stems and the petioles of the leaf, and they are slightly flexible. So wherever the flexibility is required in the plant, the collenchyma tissue will be there. Sclerenchyma is the dead tissue basically, and it is providing the strength to the plant. So therefore it is found in mature parts of the plant or tree. So nature of the cells in parenchyma, unspecialized and living cells are there. Collenchyma, specialized cells and living cells are there. Whereas in sclerenchyma, specialized, matured and dead cells are there. Shape I already explained you in the diagram that parenchyma are isodiametric, collenchyma are the elongated and sclerenchyma are the fibrous tissue, as you can see in this diagram once again. Now moving on to the complex tissues are of two types, xylem and phloem. Complex tissues together are also called as vascular bundles. Xylem is a tissue which is helping in the conduction of water and minerals to different parts of the plants. Phloem is helping in the transportation of the food to different parts of the plant. Xylem and phloem both are made up of four types of cells. In xylem, the cells are vessels, tracheids, xylem parenchyma and xylem sclerenchyma. Out of these four types of cells, only xylem parenchyma is living. Rest all three, that is vessel, tracheids and xylem sclerenchyma is a dead cells. Phloem is made up of four types of cells, that is sieve cells, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. Phloem fiber is also called as blast fiber, or it is also called as phloem sclerenchyma. Out of these four types of these cells, only phloem fiber is a dead cell, and rest all three types of cells, that is sieve cells, companion cells and parenchyma, are living cells. The next slide. Now we'll be understanding about the different types of the animal tissue. I have already given you in the starting the introduction that how many types of animal tissues are there. So we have basically four types of the tissue, that is epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, connective tissue and nervous tissue. So in this flow chart there are further classification of these tissue. So let's one by one will be going to understand about the different types of the animal tissue and their further divisions. So coming back to first type of tissue, that is epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissues are classified as squamous epithelial tissue, columnar epithelial tissue, cuboidal epithelial tissue and glandular epithelial tissue. So Columnar means column shaped cells will be there. Cuboidal means cube shaped cell will be there. Glandular means these tissue will be present wherever there is a function of the secretion, and we all know that glands are doing the function of the secretion in our body. So we can say that wherever glands are present, glandular tissues will be there. Right? Squamous epithelial is present as the first line. They are providing the shape to the cell, so they will be present there. Now muscular tissues are further classified as striated, unstriated and cardiac muscle. Striated muscles are, and we can say striated muscles, they are the skeletal muscles. Unstriated muscles are the smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles, they are generally the muscles of the heart. Then connective tissues, we have blood, and lymph is also a connective tissue. Bone, ligament, tendon, cartilage, areolar and adipose connective tissues. Then we have nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is the longest tissue, right? So let's move on to the next part, that is epithelial tissue and their types we will discuss. We will discuss their locations and structure. So epithelial tissue is basically covering or the protective tissue. Wherever there is a function of the protection, epithelial tissue will be there. You can see here they are providing the function of covering and protective tissue. Right? I hope all of you are able to see. Then it is forming, generally epithelial tissue is present in the skin. It is forming the outer covering of the organ. It is present in the inner lining of the blood vessels. You can see here, right? It is present in lungs, esophagus. There are so many organs in our body which needs protection. So wherever the work of protection is there, you will find the epithelial tissue. It is protecting the body and controlling the movement also, right? So first of all, we'll study the squamous epithelial tissue. Squamous epithelial tissues are flat cells which are based at one baseline. Okay, single layer. Okay, single layer of the cells is present like this. Say for example, if I will draw the diagram over here, it will be like this. There is a single baseline on which the cell are there without the spaces, right? So like this type of arrangement is for the squamous epithelial tissue, right? When there are more than one layer like this, say for example like this, it becomes stratified squamous epithelium, and this stratified squamous epithelium tissue is present in our skin. Single layer से skin will not be going to help, because skin is the most exposed part. कभी cuts लग जाते हैं, तो अगर एक ही layer होगी तो what will happen? The single cut say it may damage the cells, right? So therefore there are many layers of these cells. Squamous epithelial tissue is there so that underlying organs and systems can be protected. Next is columnar epithelial tissue. Columnar means they are column shaped like this on one baseline without the spaces. They are like this column shaped. Okay, so they are pillar like, and they are present where? They are present in the walls of the intestine. They are present in the respiratory tracts. If they are having the hairs, then they are called as the ciliated columnar epithelium, as we have in nose, where in nose we have hairs, and therefore which type of tissue is present in nose? It is ciliated columnar epithelial tissue, right? Then we have cuboidal tissue. Cuboidal means cube shape. We have like this. a shape of the cube. On one baseline, the cells like cuboidal shaped cells are present. This is a cube, right? So these cuboidal cells are present, right? And such at one basement membrane, and this tissue is seen in the kidney lining of the kidney, right? It is seen in salivary glands, and their function is to provide again the mechanical support. Then we have glandular epithelial tissue, which is folding inward and forms multicellular glands and secrete the substances. Either they will secrete the hormones or they will secrete the enzymes, and therefore they are called as the glandular epithelial tissue. Right. So let's understand further. You can see here the diagram of the different epithelial tissue which I just explained you. Though in the slide I have shown you 4 but explain you 6 type of the tissue. Simple squamous epithelial tissue, then we have stratified squamous epithelial tissue, simple cuboidal tissue, then we have simple columnar tissue and ciliated columnar tissue. Then we have discussed about cuboidal tissue. So these are and glandular tissue. So here it is shown there is a ape you can see, and the location of the different types of the epithelial tissue is shown over here. This is the diagram of you can see the glandular epithelial in which the inward folding is there so that the substance can be secreted. Alright, I hope the concept of epithelial tissue is clear to you, because in this part you will get short questions, or not short question, the question will be of 3 marks, but in the form of the name the following, that which type of tissue is present in the iris, which type of tissue is present in the kidney. So here you will just write, if you will just write epithelial tissue, you will not fetch marks. You have to write exact type, that in you can say kidney, columnar or cuboidal tissue is present, in respiratory tract uh, ciliated tissues are present. So like that you have to give the exact name. Just writing of the epithelial tissue will not do. Okay, so you need to have a very thorough understanding of this tissue, and I recommend you to please go through your NCRT and read this part very carefully. Next, we will move on to the types of muscular tissue. Right. When we call about muscular tissue is the tissue which is actually consisting of elongated cells called muscle fiber. Okay. And these muscles are basically made up of the protein which is called as contractile protein. There are two proteins, that is actin and myosin, which are helping in the contraction and relaxation of the muscle. Okay. Muscles can move under our will. We can have muscles can be further classified as voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. All right, voluntary muscles are our under our control. Okay, if I want to write anything from hand, it is my wish, right? It is my wish. So that means the muscles which are present in our hand, they are voluntary muscles. The muscles which are present in our legs, they are voluntary muscles, because they are under our control, right? But there are certain muscles which are not under our control. See, for example, blinking of the eyes. Can I control it? If somebody will ask me to hold these eyes for 5 minutes, I will not be. Okay, because the muscles which are present in this are smooth muscles, and they are not the voluntary muscles, they are involuntary muscles. They are not under our control, right? In that same way, beating of the heart, we cannot control heart beating, right? So it is again involuntary muscle. It will not work according to your will. It will work on its own. So this is one classification, that is involuntary and voluntary muscles. Then we have Another classification as striated muscles, unstriated muscles and cardiac muscle, and this classification is based on their structure. Okay, so if I'll show you the diagram of the striated muscle, you can see here. Striated muscles are the skeletal muscle basically. Striated muscles are also called as the skeletal muscle, and they are cylindrical in shape, and you can see that there are light and dark bands are present over here. You can see these are the light and dark bands present over here. So these are the striations from which they get the name striated muscles, and these cells are multinucleated. More than one nucleus is present. Then we have smooth muscles, which are also called as unstriated muscles. You can see that there are no such striation as they are in skeletal muscles. Okay, so they are spindle shaped, which are tapering at the ends, and single nucleus. They are uninucleated. Right. Similarly, we have cardiac muscle, which are present in the heart. Okay, so these muscles are present in the heart. They are cylindrical. You can see the diagram. They are branched, and they are, again, you can say, multinucleated. Fine. So these are the structure of the muscles, and these diagrams are asked. So you have to draw and practice the diagram of the muscle fiber and the difference between the three types of the muscle fiber: smooth muscle, skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle, or you can write them as the unstriated muscles, striated muscles and cardiac muscle. And another difference which can be asked is voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. So we have understood that skeletal muscles, they are involuntary muscles. Smooth and skeletal muscles, they are the voluntary muscles, and smooth and cardiac muscles, they are involuntary muscles. Right? So let's go on to the next. So types of connective tissue. Basically, connective tissue are tissues which connect joint and joints, the different parts together, different parts of the body together. Right? So we have blood as the fluid connective tissue, and all of you know that it is helping in the transport of gases, digested food, hormones and waste material. Right? Then bone. Bone is a dense connective tissue, and it is made up of calcium and phosphate. All of you must be knowing this, that bones we required, for strong bones we required calcium. Then bone is, the function of bone is to provide the strength, structure and support to the body. Ligament is the connective tissue which is very flexible, and basically it is helping it in between the joints. Say for example, one bone is joining with the another bone, so two bones, in between these two bones ligament will be present. Here you can see wherever there is bone to bone attachment, in between that ligament is present. Then we have tendon. Tendon is this area. You can see here, if you will touch, here is a hard bone, and that on hard bone there is a layer of the muscle. So this is the tendon. Between the muscle and the bone, in between the connective tissue which is present is called the tendon. Okay. So ligament joins bone to a bone and tendon joins the muscle to a bone. Then we have areolar tissue. Areolar tissue is basically the gap filling tissue, and adipose tissue is the fat storing tissue. So this is all about the different types of the connective tissue. These are the different components of the blood. In blood also different types of the cells are present. WBCs, RBCs, platelets, monocytes, lymphocytes, neutrophils. These monocytes, lymphocytes, neutrophils, the basophils and ionophil are the types of white blood cell. Then you can see in this diagram, the difference between the ligament and the bone. So this is the ligament and the tendon. So this is the bone. On this bone the muscle is there. So in between the bone and the muscle, the tendon are there. So ligament is helping. You can see this white part. Ligament is tendon is helping in joining the muscle to a bone. This white part wherever you can see is the tendon. So it is helping in joining a bone to a muscle. Here you can see wherever one bone is joining with the another bone, in between the ligament are present, and these ligaments are quite flexible. Okay. Next is areolar, the structure of the areolar tissue, adipose tissue, bone, cartilage. Cartilage is also a type of connective tissue, and this cartilage is present at your ear, this nose, your ear pinna, and they are also the flexible connective tissue. So nervous tissue, let's understand nervous tissue here. Nervous tissue is basically helping in carrying the messages. This is the diagram of the nervous tissue. You can see in this diagram, this is the cell body in which the nucleus is there. These are the dendrites. These dendrites, they are helping in carrying the stimulus from the external environment, and this long tail is the axon on which the myelinated sheet is present, and these are the nerve endings. One neuron is connected to another neuron. In this manner, there is always a gap between two neurons, which is the, you can say, synapse, which is called as the synapse. The gap between the two neurons is called as the synapse or synaptic junction. So always nerve ending of one neuron will be there, and second neuron dendrites will be there, and between these two there will always be certain gap, which is called as the synaptic junction, at which there is some chemical exchange of the message takes place. So structure of neuron is very important. What are the different parts of neuron is generally asked in the exam. Name the longest cell. So longest tissue. So longest tissue is the, if there is longest cell or longest tissue. So neuron is the longest tissue, and nervous tissue, they are present all over the body, and they are helping in the transfer of the messages. So that's all for different types of the plant and animal tissue. I hope all of you have understood the concept, and please go through your NCERT book for further explanation. Thank you very much. About animal tissues, we have studied that there are four types of animal tissues: epithelial, muscular, connective, and nervous tissues. These are further classified as epithelial tissues are having five types, that is squamous epithelial, cuboidal, columnar epithelial tissue, ciliated epithelial tissue, and glandular epithelial tissue. Muscular tissue is further classified as striated muscles, which are voluntary muscles, smooth muscles, which are involuntary muscles, and cardiac muscles, which are present in heart, and they are also involuntary muscles. Then we have studied that connective tissues are basically of three types, that is fluid connective tissue, skeletal connective tissue, and proper connective tissue. Fluid connective tissues are blood and lymph, skeletal connective tissue are bone and cartilage, and we have proper connective tissue as areolar tissue, which is gap filling tissue, adipose tissue, which is fat storing tissue, ligament, which is joining the bone to a bone, and tendon, which is helping in joining the muscle to a bone. The nervous tissue is the fourth type of tissue, which is the longest tissue in animals. So now let's summarize the tissues. We have studied the different types of plant tissues. Meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissues are of three types: apical meristem, which are present in the root and stems; intercalary, which is present at the base of leaves and internodes, lateral meristem, which grow laterally. Simple permanent tissues are of three types: parenchyma, which are oval, elongated, polygonal living cells; collenchyma, which are elongated and living cells; sclerenchyma, which are long, narrow, lignified, dead cells. Then we have complex permanent tissue, which are of two types, that is xylem, which is helping in the conduction of water and minerals, and phloem, which is helping in the conduction of the food. We have studied that xylem is made up of four types of the cells: tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fiber. And phloem is made up of four elements, that is sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers, and phloem parenchyma. So children, this is the assignment for you to test your knowledge, that how much you have understood this chapter. This is a very objective assignment. One is fill in the blank, and second question is the concept based questions which are generally asked in CBSE. So do solve these assignments, and if there is any problem, we'll be going to discuss it. So this is the assignment which we'll be going to do in class also. So better give some exercise to your brain and try to find out the answers to these questions. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you very much.